In conversation with us right here at ET now is Mr. Shaktikanta, the Department of Economic Affairs Secretary, talking to us exclusively right here on ET now. Thank you very much for speaking to us, sir. The markets seem to be getting back some sanity. They are recovering, so I'm sure that should be some amount of sanity and some amount of comfort on both your parts. My question to you, though, is that this has been a 10-year-long negotiation. You're trying to renegotiate a 33-year-old treaty here. What was the rationale to do this now? Why did you think the time was ripe and right now?
See, first thing I would like to mention is that almost all analysts so far have given a thumbs up to the revised protocol which has been signed between India and Mauritius yesterday. Now, number two, it's not a question of timing. I mean, this matter has been under renegotiation, has been under negotiation for a pretty long time, and now it has reached a stage of conclusion. And I must also add that over the last 2 years, given the government's resolve to fight the problem of black money, there has been a renewed focus, there has been a greater emphasis on taking this negotiation process forward, and it has reached a stage of conclusion where it was ripe for signing. So therefore it was signed. It's not a question of timing it in any manner for anyone.
A lot of market participants believe that a lot of thought has gone into this. You've tried to, you've tried to grandfather it, you've tried to halve the withholding tax. If I may first talk to you about softening the blow. The grandfathering clause there, do you believe that has purposefully been done to soften the blow that could have been dealt on market participants?
You see, the grandfathering provision has been done mainly in line with the government policy on having predictability in matters of taxation. There cannot be surprises, there cannot be uncertainty with regard to tax policy. Tax policies will have to be predictable, there has to be certainty, and this is a point which time and again the government at the highest level has been stressing. So it's mainly in line with that policy.
Also, the withholding tax, you're starting with half the rate, which is 7.5% for 2 years and 15% only 2 years later. You believe that this is not going to impact inflows, but from a very candid observation, I know you've been in touch with fund managers, I know you've been trying to explain the rationale. You did preempt some sort of a knee-jerk reaction. Will I be wrong in assessing that?
No, I don't expect, as I said yesterday, I don't expect any knee-jerk reaction as such, because I think the markets have so far given a very matured response after it has opened today in the first hour, and the market, I think, has understood the situation. In any case, India continues to be a very robust economy, and investments will come in because of the fundamentals of the economy, because of the strength and resilience of the economy, and because of the kind of return that India offers post-tax.
While I think we give you a big thumbs up for clarifying and giving clarity, let me also be the devil's advocate for a minute. A lot of market participants do believe that you could have perhaps increased the short-term capital, the STT, the security transaction tax. They also believe that why do it when markets like the US don't have a tax like this? Isn't that something that crossed your mind when you were renegotiating a treaty of this nature?
You see, the international community is moving away from harmful tax practices like having such tax jurisdictions with zero tax. India obviously is one of the major vocal advocates of this policy of doing away with such tax jurisdictions, because they promote harmful tax practices, and which is not in the interest of the global community. That is number one. Now, number two is that this agreement is something which had to come. I mean, every country today, US has its own tax policy, we have our own tax policy.
Right.
But overall, if you see, capital gain is something which has to be taxed, world over. Just because the money is coming through a particular route, you get a special advantage, let's say vis-a-vis the domestic investors.
Right.
So
this
decision creates a level playing field between domestic investors and the foreign investors.
Two quick last questions, sir. On Singapore, as far as the treaty is concerned, is this an ipso facto ruling, or will you have to go back to the drawing board and renegotiate with that country?
No, these are two sovereign countries. It has to be naturally taken up with the Singapore authorities, and it has to be taken to its logical conclusion.
Many tax experts and lawyers have been flooded with calls, both from overseas investors, from London, or is it New York. People are worried what is going to happen with the US. When do you look at renegotiating the treaty with the US? I know one of the clauses that you will do it is the BEPS, but one wants wants to understand the timelines that you're working at with the US.
I think you have to wait and watch. I cannot, this is a negotiation between two sovereign countries, so it will not be proper or right on my part to give a timeline. I mean, the timeline will depend on how the negotiation plays out.
My last question to you, GAR was supposed to kick in from April 1, 2017. A lot of market participants believe that you've served the purpose with a treaty renegotiation with Mauritius and one with Singapore that's going to follow. Do we still expect GAR to be alive and kicking on the 1st of April 2017, or do you believe it's outlived its relevance?
Well, GAR is supposed to come from 1/4/17 as already announced by the finance minister in his budget speech last year. And you have to wait for the budget till it comes. How can I say something, which the finance minister...
Do you believe it's outlived its relevance with a treaty negotiation of this nature?
No, nothing has outlived its relevance. I think GAR continues to be relevant. Internationally, GAR is an accepted general anti-avoidance rules, is an accepted practice world over. It's not something which is being done differently in India. So therefore, GAR stands on its own footing, and you have to wait for the next year's budget.
It's been a very brave, bold decision on your government's part. We wish you all the very best with it, and I think markets are trying to understand what you're trying to convey there. Thank you very much, Mr. Das, for speaking to us. Mr. Shaktikanta Das, the Department of Economic Affairs Secretary, in conversation with us right here at ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNow Live. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.